タイムマシン
We don't even have time to get to the spoiler card, so be warned. Let's figure out this timeline first. Here are the 6 base story beats thus far up to episode 3 of Tatami Time Machine Blues, with 4 of them taking place on August 11th, the time machine incident on August 12th, and the supposed conclusion of the story, which will be the bonfire on the 16th. Ozu is the first that we know of to use this machine in our present timeline to appear as a duplicate on the film set at the balcony the day before, and then comes right back to us at that same time on the 12th. We already knew that Hanuki that was on the set wasn't the present day one, and it was confirmed with this set of episodes 2 and 3, that the future Hanuki is the one on the other side of the Oasis. Speaking of Oasis, we knew that the other 3 people were from the future, but confirmation this episode, with episode 3, that it was Ozu, Watashi, and Higuchi. Although it's a little misleading because the scene from episode 1 clearly covers a lot more, making it hard to determine if that last one was Higuchi or not, and goes to show the difference in creators that handle the direction or storyboarding from. When Watashi and Akashi use the machine, the same blue hue that Ozu has when he used it isn't here, although this could be attributed to the fact that they leaped at the end of the filming day, while Ozu went sometime in the middle of it, maybe in the beginning of the filming day. The staircase seems to be an important division of time and space, as in all 3 episodes we see these sorts of instances. With episode 1, it's Watashi going up towards what he believes is that rose-colored life, or that hue, but is confused by all the talk of all these random, what I do think are future versions of the gang. With episode 2, the ones on the stairs are next in line to use the machine. The machine is currently being processed in the hallway by Higuchi's classic trolling. And with episode 3, the future ones are stuck on the staircase, with the present versions lost as to what Hanuki was even talking about. It's interesting that the remote handing off is what gets Hanuki to cook up this plan to leave Watashi and Akashi in the past. It actually sets them up to put the remote back in its spot before the coke gets spilled in potentially episode 4. This layering effect at the book fair is just amazing, and there's this easy way to spot Watashi based on which time period outside of who's next to Ozu, because I'm sure in the next 2 episodes there's going to be some real swapping that happens. The more modern look with Watashi in his Mandalorian collar, as well as with the joggers, is the Watashi from yesterday, the one that went to the bathhouse, and then the Watashi that actually time travels is wearing more of his usual white collar button down. We get the reference of The Girl Who Leapt Across Time, which is a great movie, by the way. You should definitely watch it, by Hosoda. The little dinosaur moment from the episode 2, where Ozu literally pins Watashi against the frame of the screen, while Watashi claims that this battle of space and time against Ozu would not go as well, and this Tatami Blues Watashi imagines where he could actually loop back to the beginning of his college life, which is what he metaphorically goes throughout Tatami Galaxy. Another nod to Tatami Galaxy is when the light casts onto Ozu. We see mushrooms, which is something that we know Ozu hates from the very first episode of Tatami Galaxy. On top of that, episode 2 of Tatami Blues references the Royal Bee boxes from Tatami Galaxy. I believe it was episode 5, when the shabby guy actually is building the time machine 25 years in the future and carrying those boxes in. With this 3rd episode, we have no other scenes from the first PV that we are waiting to see. However, there are a few new scenes showcased in the music video and a preview that makes me excited for the final 2 episodes. I won't show them on the screen, but I will link them on the bottom if you are curious and want to find out, but they are technically considered spoilers for the later parts of the series, even if they haven't been released. We actually have a lot of questions still unanswered that were set up in episode 2, but one thing for sure is certain. Tomura, whatever his name is Watashi and Akashi's child because of the mole placement and the hair. And I mean, just look at how they're seated. We don't even ever learn either of their last names, and them in the future withhold the information about their past selves for their child so that he doesn't go and mess up the universe. Because it is fine for different time periods of the same person to interact, as long as it's in more of a subtle way, as we see with Higuchi. As long as there's enough plausible deniability, the world will continue forwards. The next section is going to be my attempt of talking about editing again, and will contain spoilers for Heike Monogatari, so continue if you'd like. Subscribe so you can get the final review for episodes 4 and 5 together 2 weeks from now, because we don't live in Japan and we can't see the series in a theater. Just look at this scene from episode 10 of Heike Monogatari. It is by far my favorite one of the series. The colors, the OST, the vibes. This is what I feel when I watch an episode directed and storyboarded by Fuga Yamashiro, who does episode 2 of Tatami Blues. There is this thematic core of using water visuals to transition between parties in Heike, as well as this interplay with the ED animations into the relevance of the story. Although Tatami Blues doesn't have any ED visuals because Natsume is fumbling once again, as he did with Sunny Boy's Shonen Shoujo that had a black screen for basically all of the episodes. The overall slower episode 2 was accented by these transitions in space and time. We already talked about the division with the staircase, but with episode 2 there's a strong focus on the sun because he tells about the future that builds the time machine. The sun is wandering around the city, but to the residents of the building itself is a microcosm of the city. So these cuts until the sun actually gets to face the gang again is very satisfying to look at, and also pats out what he will use the time machine to go back further into the past, foreshadowed with this transition. The other transition that is pretty noteworthy is when Watashi explains what to use the time machine for. He uses his watch as our line of sight to go to the left for the past, for the remote, and then back to the right to the future to even turn it on. But in both the past and the future, the camera is his point of view, so it indicates that we'll actually see him try to attempt this, but another observer will impede his actions, most likely himself. Episode 3 was done by Moko-chan, who did episode 5 in Heike. The lighting is just phenomenal, and what I love most about this creator is that the stills or screenshots of moments that really lingers leave an impact because of how beautifully colored they are. I don't really know too much about their work outside of this basic comparison, sadly, but this episode was a standout one for sure. And it's not just because it's a different creator on the episode direction or storyboard. Unlike with episode 2, I didn't actually know the length of this one at all, which was great because I thought it was actually longer than episode 2 and was shocked when it wasn't. Even with these shorter episodes, as long as they're packed to the brim with this level of fun and creativity, I am more than satisfied, and I'll definitely go into episodes 4 and 5 without figuring out what the length is. There's plenty to talk about, like my favorite moments in episode 3, but I'll save it for like a final wrap up because I think it'll hit more once we know the conclusion. I shall see you guys in the next one where we wrap up the series, outside of whatever the extra episode is going to be like. Peace.